Oh, who the fuck are you? I'm a guy who does his job. You must be the other guy.
I teabag your fucking truck!
You turned this dumb to a bag of hammers.
You climb obstacles like old people must! You know that, Private Kyle?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
How many fucking beers we can drink or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And Liquid Death, my buddy handed it to me. I thought it was a tall boy.
Mm-hmm.
I took a sip of it, and I was like, damn, this is actually exactly what I wanted.
Yeah,
you know?
some water.
Exactly. I wanted some water, and
No, I love the fact that they're like tall boys. And, you know, a lot of people that have, what I've been hearing a lot lately is a lot of people that have stopped drinking have switched. It's helped them stop drinking.
yeah.
It's the same, like, look and feel, and, you know, and they have the sparkling kind. It's like bubbly, so it's kind of like a seltzer, you know?
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of people are starting to turn away from alcohol. It's kind of just like this day-to-day thing, you know, for so long. It was part of the culture, right? And, you know,
No, you're totally right.
like generalize an entire generation, but whenever I was growing up, born in 96, you know, you're 14, 15, 16, and, like, you just want to go out and drink beers because that's, like, what you think is the thing you're supposed to do,
Right?
You know, sneaking shit from, like, your dad's fridge or whatever. And over time, I feel like one way or another, you kind of have to just find who you really are, you know?
Right.
Not to knock it or anything. I'm not, like, holier than thou. I drink beers and shit, but it's just kind of interesting how, you know, a lot of people when they're turning, like, 25 or 26, they're just like, I don't give a fuck about that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I got it all out of my system.
Excuse me, I'm trying to get the...
And they
the
smoke
Twitch
weed
going.
every day.
Yeah, right? Yeah, man. These are super interesting to me.
So that's number one. Let's see, I guess I was probably about 19 or 20 at this point. And my academic advisor, I went to OU on a scholarship to study economics. And my advisor was like, I think you should get out of Oklahoma, Texas area. You know, I spent my entire life in Fort Worth, grew up right around like the Berry Street, TCU area, Tanglewood, same house. You know, pretty small school. And when I got to college, my advisor was like, I think you should, you know, try to study abroad. And I'm like, that sounds expensive as fuck.
Yeah, no kidding.
And, you know, not an option, to say the least, right? And so I started kind of getting plugged in with different academic groups, trying to find a way to just make it possible. And part of that was this leadership scholars group in the College of Arts and Science. Spam risk. Shit. Yeah, basically just grind. Like, I was studying at least 40 hours a week, dude. Like, I wasn't the sharpest tech, to say the least, man. Didn't, like, crush my SATs or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I just busted my fucking ass, dude. And made straight A's, got, you know, part of Habitat for Humanity. And that's when I kind of started taking my life a little bit more seriously, you know. The beginning of that progression from, you know, all I want to do is drink beers and shit to, like, okay, well, what do I really want to do?
Right.
And, you know, now I'm going off on a tangent, but that really led to kind of like this existential crisis of what do I want to do with my life? Where am I trying to go? And that all kind of happened at the same time. And so you see this notebook at the top. That was 2017. So probably about January 2017, it was all kind of coming to a head where, you know, sleeping in all day, drinking to excess, not really giving a fuck about much of anything. And it starts to wear on you, you know, and you start to think like, damn, what should I be doing? And I couldn't help but kind of take it all back to who I've always been.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was I doing when I was a kid? And I was just making all the work, man. I was always making something, trying to show it to somebody and say, hey, check this out. And I don't know. I mean, I still think that evolves day to day, but for me, that's always been my favorite part of living life on Earth is making something and then showing that to someone and seeing their reaction and, like, making them feel that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Feel me. Here's what I got.
Exactly.
And, you know,
I can relate to that.
to kind of tie a bow around it,
Yeah.
I guess, you know, that first trip outside of Texas, Oklahoma was what allowed me to, put my thoughts down for myself and put my, creative ambitions in one central location where I could kind of look back and hold myself accountable and say, okay, well, these notebooks are something that I can look back on when I'm old and say,
Yeah.
that was the life that I was living.
No, I like
And
that.
it was just an obsession from that point. So that's like almost 7 years of work right there.
How do you go about picking these books to write
Oh
in?
yeah, dude. Sometimes they.
Do you mind if I look?
Yeah, dude. That's all good. I guess before I started, I actually got that one as a gift, and it was right before I was about to go on this trip to London.
Dude, you got like graphs in here and shit. Like this ain't just a journal.
That's what I was studying, at the time. So part of that is the curriculum, and then the other part is kind of like my creative, and like part of the adventure too, right?
Yeah, this is dope.
Yeah, we were studying urban economics and macroeconomic theory, I think is what it was, or some shit like that. But it was cool though, man. It was interesting because obviously you're going to school Monday through Friday, but you're there for 5 weeks, and 2 days out of the week you're not really tasked with much.
Yeah.
So, you find whatever you want to find: food, drink, casinos, whatever it is. We took a couple of trips too while we were out there, and went to Barcelona, did this like massive like beach fest, which is nuts, and went to Amsterdam too, which is wild.
Oh, that's gotta be cool.
Again, I'd never seen shit, so this
Yeah.
is like crazy.
Barcelona's like the skateboarding mecca.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't know much about skating. I saw a ton of.
No, I'm 100% skateboarder over here, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's like the mecca of skateboarding because it's just like street skateboarding is like born there, or not born there, but it like lives there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I always would have thought, California or somewhere,
Mhm.
the West Coast, Portland or something.
California and Barcelona, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I know you don't do intros, so.
Yeah, I mean we're already in it, man.
We're in it? Okay.
Yeah, I've been rolling, so
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about?
Man, I honestly want to get into your band. Let's talk about the band a little bit.
For sure.
First off the bat, I see Griffin Holt be playing with you. I've been trying to get him on the show.
Griffin's a good guy.
Yeah. He must be busy as shit because I've tried to book him like twice, and I guess he's just busy or something. Do you know what's up with him?
I can't really speak to that. I know he is a busy guy for
Yeah.
sure. I worked with him quite a bit the past year or so. It's kind of an interesting story. I was putting together this gig over at Stan's Blue Note off Greenville.
Yeah, I see y'all do a lot of stuff with them.
It was interesting because for 7 or 8 years they didn't do any live music at Stan's, which seems counterintuitive. It's Stan's Blue Note.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? And I'd heard rumors that, like, Stevie Ray Vaughan played there and all that. The typical like Dallas hearsay.
Yeah.
And, I was interested because back to my college days, OU. There's like this alumni group who has a party there every year for OU Texas, or the big game, that Friday. And so a friend of a friend reaches out and says, hey, can you help us get some live music? I've seen that you've been doing some gigs and stuff here in North. I'm like, okay. So I talked to the guy. I'm like, I don't know much about like the acoustics of the room. Can we come in and do like a sound check, say the Wednesday before our Friday gig? He's like, yeah, sure. And so we're setting up. It's probably 8 or 9 or whatever, just jamming. And this is super laid back. It's a Wednesday. There's nobody there. And this dude, I'll never forget this because I remember I experienced it and I was like, that's some shit that I would do.
Yeah.
And this kid walks up to me and he's like, hey, are you guys about to jam? I was like, yeah. And he's like, is it a show? And I was like, nah, it's just a sound check. We got a gig on Friday.
Yeah.
And he's like, can I go home and get my gear? And I'm thinking to myself, like,
No way.
I'm thinking, this guy's out of his mind.
Yeah, like, what do you mean?
But again, like, so am I. So I'm like, that's something I would say. And I'm like, fuck yeah, you can go home and get your gear. Like, sure, Not thinking much. I'm thinking he's going to come back, not to knock it. I'm thinking he'd have, like, a Squire or something and, like,
Yeah, right.
a tiny amp or something. He comes back with, like, a Telly and a Strat and, like, a Marshall twin stack with all the goodies. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, he came correct.
And he did.
Yeah.
He started blowing the fucking doors off this place, dude. And Yeah, we've done like 20 shows since then. But it was just funny because like the stars kind of aligned in this moment, just randomly hanging out at Stan's Blue Note. And here we are, kind of, you know, breaking ground with the venue again, who hasn't done live music in years. And so that was a good show, you know, October, that alumni event or whatever. And me and Griffin stay in contact. We stay in touch with Stan's Blue Note, and we say, hey, we want to come in here as often as possible, whatever day you'll let us play, and just kind of see how it goes. So he starts with, okay, well, why don't we do a Wednesday here and there and just, you know, see what's good. They'd already been kind of doing some open mic type stuff that I wasn't really involved with. And so I figured we can ramp that up, you know, Griffin with Work in Progress, my production company, kind of combine the two and start having some open mics. And, yeah, like I said, Griffin and I do a bunch of shows. He's drummed for my band a couple times. Guy's like a savant or like a virtuoso musician, like this guy.
It seems like it, dude. Yeah.
It's like this musical theory inside of his head, like he doesn't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Much like Slick Rick.
It's just an open channel.
Open channel, yeah. Exactly.
Kick Push Radio, Mondays 6 to 8, and you stream it online at knon.com/now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just want to say real quick, Hayden, it's in a band, MarEra. It's really sick, guys. Y'all gonna have to excuse my voice. I'm losing it. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. I want to also talk to y'all about your white jumpsuits, dude. I see y'all. How did that come about? Because it looks like y'all just had like a paint party and fucking like. So y'all, they play in like these white jumpsuits and they're like covered in like paint and shit, and the whole band wears them. It's a cool aesthetic.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I guess I'll kind of preface this by saying my band is like the new project, and so it's weird almost to talk about that on the forefront. But the white jumpsuits. I love this idea. I love the idea of committing to the bit. I love the idea of putting on a show. And, you know, to be honest, when my friend John and I started this, shout out John Wright, oldest friend since I was like 5 years old, no shit. Me and John started this project, we were kind of just like trying to figure out what our sound was going to be like. And we had a couple of original songs. We actually had an original band name, Jamming to a Fault, which in hindsight does not sound cool.
Jamming to a Fault.
We were not a good band at that point. And, you know, the idea was like it's this double entendre, like we're jamming to a fault because we rock so hard we fucking break the ground, baby.
Yeah, okay.
But it also had this double meaning of like you're literally jamming to a fault and everyone around you hates this. And so it's kind of like this inside joke now. But when MarEra was formed, that was kind of when we started taking, you know, the music really seriously. You know, obviously practicing a lot more, rehearsing a lot more. And with that kind of came this sense that, you know, we are putting on a show. And part of that show requires getting into character, getting into, you know, this performance mentality.
Absolutely.
Not worrying about, you know, the crowd work, not thinking about, you know, I hope everyone understands what the song's about. Maybe I should explain what the song's about before we start. No, fuck that. Like, we're just going to go out there and play it.
Yeah.
And we want to have, you know, this mentality of, like, this is what it is, and then we're gone. Because, I don't know, I think over-explaining things is like, the opposite of what I want to have to do.
You're not supposed to do that. I mean, magician doesn't reveal all his secrets, you know?
Yeah, it's that thing, like, a joke is but it's funny, or I'm gonna bias this or something about like, you know, a joke's funnier the more you have to explain it.
Yeah. I feel you. Well, so let's go all the way back then, because when we talked on the phone, you said you used to paint. How'd you get into painting? What happened there? Let's start from the beginning.
Right. Yeah. And that's the full circle, right? Like
Yeah.
I started as a painter, hence the jumpsuits on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually did a lot of self-reflection before this interview this podcast because I've never been interviewed for like the shit that I love.
Yeah.
Before, you know, it's always been like, tell us about your experience managing a team, you know, whatever. And I can tell you about that, but I don't want to because this is something that I've just
Well, it's more fun to talk about what you want to, you know.
or what I've cared so much about
Yeah,
for my
yeah.
entire life. You know, I started making artwork literally since before I can even remember. Like, I had an older brother, very creative guy, Hayden Redmon, great guy. My parents were both, you know, very creative people. At the very least, they really appreciate art and music. And so I feel like, you know, as that younger sibling, you're almost playing this role of like comedic relief in a lot of ways. Like, you're the youngest, you're the cutest, no one takes you seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in a way that's kind of been part of my development as a person and as an artist. Mostly due to the fact that I use art to express myself. You know, I like to think that I'm an open book, but it really just depends on who's asking the right questions, right? Like, I'm kind of, you know, more introverted. Recently, it's been getting, you know, increasingly extroverted, but increasingly introverted, the opposite. Just because, like, I don't know, man. I don't have time to bullshit around anymore, I guess. But I'm rambling. The question was, how did I get started making artwork? Yeah, dude. I mean, I just feel like it was always a pastime in the house. My brother was kind of a skater too, so I used to like design his skate decks. My
cool.
babysitter taught me how to do like graffiti, like bubble letters when I was like 4 or 5. And
Really?
I mean, a really big part of like my creative development. I did this series where I was like making like a series of characters they were all monkeys, but they all had like different occupations.
Oh, so you were doing NFTs before NFTs, right?
That was me, dude. I stole my idea.
I got you.
I should be a thousandaire right
Mm-hmm.
now, but I'm not. No, man, it was just something that it just always felt like something I was good at, and it was something that people would say like, you know, you've got something here, like you should never quit. And I guess I just believed him, you know. And I never really had interest in like, you know, all the shit that I thought I was supposed to be doing. Like, it was basically art and sports my entire life.
Okay.
I never really wanted to like be a scientist or an engineer or any of that. I don't know how to describe that, but.
Have you always messed in the medium of paint, or do you go into other things like?
Primarily, I'd say my preferred medium's always been acrylic paint.
Right.
But you know, when I was a young kid, I used to do like ceramics. You know, throwing pots and
that's cool.
Working with clay, and it's weird because you know I think about it in like a series or like a handful of series, right? So, you know, obviously like the younger days, I don't give a fuck about the art that I made when I was 5 years old or whatever. But it's still a piece of what I'm doing now, right? And so I have to consider that. And when it goes to, say, my early adolescence, kind of lost sight of making artwork because, you know, when you're 10 to 12, 14 or whatever, sports is like the main thing, or it was for me at least. And so playing football, playing baseball, playing basketball, all that stuff, that's really how I defined myself, right? I was the guy who could throw the ball the furthest or whatever. And it wasn't until I herniated these 2 discs in my back when I was 14 that I was like, my identity shattered. Like, what am I now?
How'd you do that?
Incorrectly powerlifting.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it was tough. And like, I don't blame anyone but myself for this.
You really can't, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to.
Right, but at the end of the day, you lifted it.
Yeah, no, it was part of these football workouts I was doing for high school.
That sucks.
Yeah, it was tough, dude. It was tough to get my head around because I was like, again, here I am, 14 years old.
Yeah,
my whole identity is playing football, playing basketball, baseball, that shit, and I'm about to go to a new high school. It's like summer workouts. I don't know anybody, right? And here I am. I can't even hardly walk. I literally can't walk. I'm going to PT like 2 hours a day, every day. Getting better over time. You know, it probably took about 6 months to fully rehabilitate. But during that time, again, just growing pains. Like, who am I? What am I doing now? And
that seems to be a constant with you.
yeah.
Is that something that you've always kind of struggled with, or like do you find like
I feel the need to evolve.
do you feel the need to find an understanding? Is that what you're looking for, or are you looking for an evolution?
You know, an understanding of the world or an understanding
Whatever.
of yourself. Yeah, I mean, I guess all the above. You know, to be honest, I've always felt like I've got something to give, something that I can do to make the world better. I don't always know what it is, right? And sometimes it's as simple as just paying a compliment or paying some constructive criticism one way or another. But I do feel like, you know, this like work in progress mentality that I've, you know, really adopted over the past few years has shaped my decision making. And by, you know, changing the way I think about interacting with people or, you know, making decisions or, you know, managing a project. It's like, it all comes back to, well, what do I know? Or who am I? And what do I want the end result to look like? And the world changes. If you're not changing right along with it, then you're going to get left in the dust.
That's true.
You know, there's that great Pink Floyd quote. It's like, nobody told you when to run. You missed the starting gun.
It's so true, though. Because the world's going to keep on going with it without you.
Yep.
You keep up or get left behind.
Yeah. I feel like I kind of danced around that question, though. What was that?
I was just asking if you feel like you seem to have a struggle with finding an understanding or what the next step is all the time. Do you seem, is it always like what is it behind you that you're searching for, do you think?
I'd say more so than anything, it's just been a series of roadblocks or circumstances that have kind of shown me what the real purpose is, right? And so, call it fate, call it whatever. I feel lucky because, you know, if I hadn't herniated those discs in my back, maybe I'd be, you know, playing D2 ball somewhere or something.
Maybe, yeah.
Coaching a team or something.
I've got a similar story. I mean, I had a concussion in the military, and they kicked me out, and now I'm doing stuff like this. But I'm sure I'd be in the military, you know, have a military career and all that. But,
changes everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, I want to believe that everybody has, you know, that journey that they're supposed to go on. It's not always easy, dude. It's not supposed to be.
No, not at all.
You do have to find your true self, and that is something that I'm always looking for. But just to kind of share on that, like, chronological order, right? So, cared a lot about sports, got the injury. Okay, well, started diving in, back to the ceramics, back to the painting. And that's where, again, I started seeing people, you know, appreciating the work and thinking to themselves, like, okay, well, Hayden's the art guy now, or whatever. And I really liked that. And eventually that started to fade. I started getting, you know, back into sports once I rehabilitated, started getting more interested in, you know, partying and finding a girlfriend and all that kind of stuff, you know, late high school stuff like that, you know, trying to find a college to go to, figure out how to pay for it and all that shit. And, you know, did that, went to school, and that feeling started, you know, getting in front of me again where, you know, here I am seemingly doing all the things you're supposed to be doing, you know. I'm in school, I'm working, I'm making good grades, all that. I'm not happy. You know, I'm going to parties, I got friends, I'm not happy. Drinking, smoking myself into oblivion, not sleeping right, like, something had to change. And I was talking to one of my oldest friends, and he's like, well, why don't you just get back into making artwork, man?
Yeah.
That's what you always like to do. And,
do what makes you happy.
And I remember this till I die, dude. We were sitting in my room, and I'm just like fucking just distraught. And I go, how? Takes a notebook, slides it across like that. You can start right now. And I did. And the the idea of like a Finsta. You ever heard that word? Like,
Yeah.
People were making like fake Instagrams for their dogs and like their food accounts or whatever. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna start posting something on the internet. And it started out, I had like my homie Nick, the guy who told me to do it. John, my oldest friend, right, co-runner of Whip and bandmate now, and probably 2 or 3 other friends who like were really like day one. You know what I'm saying? Like they really supported me day one. I'll never forget that. And
Is that how this started?
oh yeah,
That's how the notebook started?
it's all just kind of like that pivotal moment where, existential 20 or I guess I was 20 or 19 years old, and just having this quarter life crisis, like what am I gonna do? And it started just writing ideas down, sketching some different, paintings or whatever I wanted to work towards, and it just kind of snowballed. That feeling of like gratification when I was able to like show someone a new piece, get that like, oh shit, this is sweet, or like the serotonin from like likes on my art Instagram. I'm like, okay, like this is cool, and then people start wanting to buy it, and I'm like, this is fucking sweet.
Yeah.
And that took a while. I actually sold my first piece, Norman Art Fest, sitting on the street corner, and that's like why I feel this tie to the late night call, because I respect the fuck out of those guys, dude. Every single day, every single time I was in Deep Ellum with Southern Clowns.
Every time, dude. You have to respect the hustle. I mean, those guys, like, just to speak on them real quick, like, there's really no other band doing it like them. Like, I respect the fuck out of them, and it's like they are a true street band.
Well, that's the right mentality.
Yeah.
And just putting in those hours. It's all about the grind.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really enjoy and you appreciate the grind, it's really not that bad. It feels good.
For sure, man. What do you think? What do you think makes a meaningful life?
Oh man. I want to opine on a question like this, but at the end of the day, I always kind of lean back on the fact that my opinion doesn't really matter, and it shouldn't matter to anyone else.
I respect
But
that.
if you were to ask me what makes a meaningful life for me, what I want to do with my life and put meaning towards that, I think it's about impacting people in a positive way and providing opportunities for people and blowing a motherfucker's mind every now and then.
Yeah.
And just showing them like what's possible. There's a couple of people that I've had the privilege of working with that have, shown me the light or, changed my way of thinking that it's just been so drastic where I have to wonder where I would be without them. And so in return, I feel the need to open those doors for other people. Lottie the musician comes to mind, for example. I don't know if you know who Lottie is, but he's a great dude based in Arlington. He runs the Silent Media movement.
No, I don't know him.
And he's heading up like 4 or 5 bands, all of which fucking rock.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. Just a great, mentor. And so when you talk about, how do you put meaning to life, it's like, it's about the people, dude. It's about, having these relationships with people and sharing what you know and making their lives a little bit easier by being a part of it.
Yeah. I can look at. Yeah, I respect that. I want you to tell me, do you think live music is dying with the way that streaming's going, like just taking over everything, and no one, like kids stream everything now, and I do too. Like I stream everything, and like live music just doesn't really seem to be like. What's your opinion on that, man?
Well, if you had to ask me, I'd say live music dying, no, definitely not. Is it changing? Absolutely, yes. I actually like the direction that it's heading.
Yeah.
Because there are fewer barriers. It seems like year after year, you have more and more people, exponential growth in Spotify, and people who just have their content out there, which I feel like is the most important thing. But more so, you've got the technology around sharing the music in a creative sense, right? So let's say 5 years ago you could have just a standstill camera and you're streaming it in 720. Okay, well now you're in 1440 or whatever it is, and maybe you've got 2 other camera angles, both of which are high quality, serious production, and that's just something that I've noticed in terms of really catching someone's attention. It kind of comes down to like the quality of the work. If you've got, let's say, like a reel on Instagram or TikTok or something, well, I mean, if you're shooting in 1080p or something like that, like it's obviously gonna look more legit. And perception is reality, dude. I mean, if it looks like it's cool, then people are gonna be interested in it. But with that said, I think there's kind of this double-edged sword, because you can never really capture what a live experience is like.
Right.
You've seen these documentaries of like Woodstock or Burning Man or whatever, but like you weren't there, you didn't feel it. And that's the thing. Again, I hate to keep circling back to late night call, but I've just learned so much from like working with those guys. It seems like the coolest, like most awesome video I have on my phone from a show of those guys, like, doesn't even compare. Like, when you're actually in the shit and you feel what that artist is pushing out through the speakers, like, you just can't compare it to anything.
Ricky's just a natural at it too, man.
And I mean, shit, you see all the great performers at the same point. It's like, it's one of the reasons why I feel like you shouldn't be able to have your phone at a concert, which I know is a touchy subject, but like, I feel like if there's a way to work around that, it would make everyone happier.
Well, some bands, like, they do make you put your phone up. Yeah. Like Jack White. Yeah. If you go to a Jack White show,
do that.
Yeah, they make you leave your phone at the door. You pick it up when you leave. I mean, it creates that more personal, intimate environment anyway, And I dig it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of thought about the progression of being an artist, specifically a musician. Let's say you start as beginner, novice, whatever. I kind of track it as a bedroom performer, a campfire performer, garage band expert, and then ultimately a gigging artist.
Sure.
And it's kind of once you turn that corner on that last one, where you're able to understand, like, I can feed myself.
Mm-hmm.
I can literally live my life by playing. Some people play 3 or 4 chords and they get by just fine.
Yeah, right.
So
AC/DC made a living of it.
Yeah, it's a long way to the top, though.
Yeah, if you're gonna rock and roll, right?
Absolutely.
I don't like bubbly water. Anyway, another Liquid Death ad right here. The black one's sparkling water. The white one's regular. That's my favorite. That's where it's at. This mango one's new. They're just putting all the flavors out now. Skateboarder-owned company. We're supporting everything skater-owned. What's up with that? Y'all check it out.
Oh, man. But, I mean, I guess the main takeaway is you got to take it seriously, but you also can't take it too seriously. So there's like that perfect balance. Because, I think the audience can smell that, and they have to relate to what you're putting down.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they're going to smell the bullshit right away,
Always.
So do this for me. Highlight a low light. If it could be a performance, a bad performance you had, a bad time in life, just highlight a low light for me.
I'm gonna reflect on something that has a happy ending.
That's always good.
And I guess it has a happy middle and beginning also, but basically, it was a lesson that I learned after the 8th concert that we threw with Work in Progress.
Okay.
So it was definitely a formative time in my early creative career, I guess I'll call it. And I struggle even to really define what it was, because it was so new to what my life was at that time. I started Work in Progress with John in January of 2021. And February we had our first gig. and it was right after the winter storms rolled through.
Oh, nice.
And you know, the whole purpose of Work in Progress is we want to give back to the community. We want to support local artists. Literally the only two things. It's always what it's been about. Excuse me. Got that out. No, that's what it's always been about. And I feel like for these first 8 shows, that's exactly what we did. You know, we had the first 3 gigs donated like $5K to the food bank.
That's awesome.
We got Houston. You know, had a great time. Like, really just kind of getting my feet wet with these 2 great friends of mine, John and TJ, just like throwing gigs and just saying like, it's just possible. People are reacting to what we're doing, and you know, we had like 300 people show up to our 3rd gig, and I'm like, okay, well now we're really getting traction here. Like, this is sweet. Took a little time off to rebuild, and then we hit it. You know, Austin, OKC, Brooklyn, back to Dallas, and you know, I think that was over the course of like a couple of weeks, but it was tough. You know, especially balancing a 9 to 5, you know, 40-hour-a-week job. All of us were actually, still are, and so the big push was really going to Brooklyn. We were playing a gig for St. Baldrick's, which is a cancer research center based in California. I had shaved my head. We raised like $2,500 for those guys, and came back down to Dallas for our Dallas show. And it was probably a combination of, you know, pressure from the show, pressure from performing in the show, pressure of, you know, having all my friends there. You know, the fear of public failure is always very real when you're, you know, putting something out there like that. And at the end of the day, it was another good show, but I felt terrible about it. And
What
I wasn't
happened?
sure why. And, you know, as much as I've thought about it, I think that it came down to this feeling of, like, wanting to be perfect and knowing that I would never be. And knowing that no matter how hard I tried, I'll never be perfect.
Well, nobody is, man.
Exactly.
You know?
And it was really low, you know. I remember we were in Dallas. I was living in Houston at the time. We were in Dallas, and I was driving back to Houston, which is like 3.5 hours, 4 hours maybe. And I was riding with my brother and his wife at the time. Still his wife, but how should I phrase that? I think it was his fiance at the time, so I mixed that up. But I was driving down, sitting in the back seat, and like I couldn't tell if it was just like exhaustion, fatigue, whatever, not sleeping enough, but I just felt like this terrible like sense of like depression and guilt, and I'm like, what did I do? Like, why did I feel so bad? And I realized once I got home, it was because I felt like I let the fans down. Like, these people came to a show, and I didn't give them what I thought was the best. And, you know, they spent $20-$25, and I just felt guilty. I was like, damn. So that was low, dude. That sucked.
What did you feel like why did you feel that way? What were you lacking in?
I think 3 things, really. There was some confusion with the venue, not to knock them at all, but there was some expectations that we had that were not met. And so for that reason, there was like a really long line at the bar the entire night.
Oh, that's horrible.
And it's just bad for a show.
Yeah.
On top of that, there was, an expectation that they would be like donating proceeds from the bar. That also didn't happen. And so now I'm like, that's not cool, because that's really what the whole thing's about.
Right.
And then this was like the worst thing I've ever had to do as a promoter or an event organizer. The venue made me kick an artist off stage, and I felt so terrible about that.
Mid-performance?
Mid-performance.
No
They
shit.
played their first song, and they said, this guy's not welcome to play here.
What?
I felt so bad, because I love the artist, dude. And
Was he just super vulgar, or what?
it is a combination of things. You know, I think reading the room is really important when you're throwing one of these gigs. And basically what happened was I had listened to their work on Spotify, and I worked with this guy as a graphic artist. You know, he vended at some past shows, and it was like a real Kid Cudi kind of like chill, soul kind of cool shit. And I was like, this is gonna be perfect. And he's like, can I bring my band? And I said, of course. Not knowing that his full band is a little bit more heavy, a little bit harder, and they put on a great show. They did. That first song lit that place up. I loved it.
Yeah.
But the venue owner didn't love it, and he's expressing himself. He's hopping up and down. Kicked over a chair and shit, which I thought was fucking sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, the venue owner tapped me on the shoulder. Was like, you need to get this guy off stage right now. And that just made me feel like the biggest piece of shit on the planet, because they drove up from Houston for that show.
Oh, yeah, that makes it a little
and
different.
I was like, they didn't want to talk to me after that.
Yeah.
And that hurts. But full circle, the show we just did down in Houston was actually with those guys, so now we're cool.
Oh, well.
It took me a while to, like, find an opportunity to, like, make things right, but I'm happy that we were able to finally do that.
Well, that's good, yeah.
But I guess... you talk about highlighting the lowlights. That was just a really tough thing for me to get over, because, feeling like you let people down, like, not even like one single person, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just sucks, dude.
No, I feel you.
And it was tough because I would talk to my friends and they'd say, it was a great show, like, we had a good time. And I didn't believe them because I thought they were just saying that. But no. I'm always my hardest critic. So.
Well, everyone is, man. I mean, you could have a perfectly good show, and only you're gonna see the things that went wrong, probably.
I hope so.
I
hope that's the case.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna take us into our newish segment that we do now. It's called Hit or Shit. And sorry, I sound like Steve-O, guys. Yeah, dude. Anyway, so basically, I'm gonna name a few things, and you just kind of tell me if that's a hit for you or if that's just shit.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So right off the bat, Broadway musicals.
Oh man, I don't know the first thing about it. I mean,
just be honest, man. Just tell me what you think, man.
I don't know shit. Totally uneducated. I think that there's a time and place for it. I was a huge fan of School of Rock growing up as a kid.
Me too. I love that.
The Book of Mormon, I've heard, is great. I'm trying to think. I mean, really the only experience I have with musicals would be like shit, dude. I got nothing.
Shit. That's fine.
I think I saw the Nutcracker when I was a little kid.
Right.
I don't even think that's a musical, is it? Not really.
Dude, don't get me lying. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so next one, Gibson guitars. Because a lot of people they love them or they hate them.
Yeah. I love a nice Gibson, dude.
Yeah.
I've never been one to, own like a really fancy guitar. I've always played Squiers, Ibanez,
Mm-hmm.
But I think in terms of like a dream guitar, shit, that Gibson SG with the fucking double neck, dude.
Oh, the Jimmy Page one? Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, how about nuts and brownies?
Nuts and brownies? It depends what kind. I mean, hazelnuts, shit, yeah, why not? Although I got a sweet tooth, so I eat pretty much anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm the same, dude.
Yeah.
All right, how about burnt cookies? Some people like their cookies burnt, a little overdone.
Yep.
Yeah.
My standards for cookies are also generally low, so I need a cookie. Not one of those, like, about bullshit, though.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'd say it's a hit, too.
All right. How about lava lamps?
Lava lamp? Shit. I don't personally own one.
Yeah.
But I feel like, yeah, I fuck with lava lamps.
Yeah, me too, right? Yeah, that's a hit. All right, how about French fries and milkshakes?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, obviously, right? Off top. Crocs.
Nah.
That's that shit.
Nah, dude. I got no swag. I already know that my drip doesn't exist, but I don't fucking wear Crocs.
Me neither, dude. I can't do it.
I don't see how that's a thing.
Yeah,
how
all right.
no one allows that.
How about belt clips for your phone?
I mean, nah.
Nah.
I'm trying to think of like an excuse why anyone would really need that, but the only thing I can think of is like they're a fucking cop, dude. No way.
Right.
No way.
All right, how about bucket hats?
Yeah, I mean, I don't wear bucket hats, but I think if somebody can rock one, like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of my homie Jaden wears bucket hats sometimes. He's a good guy.
Right.
Yeah, no disrespect.
All right, so a more current events one. How about Andrew Tate?
Andrew Tate, honestly, don't really know.
Not aware?
Much about that. I think I saw something where he's like, he's just talking a bunch of shit, and he got kicked off the internet.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one.
Yeah, dude. No, I'm all good, man. This was a pretty interesting one. How about pink flamingos that go in like your front yard?
I'm gonna say that's a major hit.
That's a hit, yeah.
I like those, definitely.
Cool, man. Right on. So that's hitter shit, man. I really want to give you a chance to speak on Work in Progress for a minute. Tell me about how this started. What's the direction you're going in with it? Just kind of speak on it, man.
Yeah. So Work in Progress constantly changes.
With the name, right? I mean, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, dude, yeah. It's interesting, right? We touched on it a little bit before. Work in Progress has always been about supporting local artist communities and supporting local charities, which I feel go hand in hand. It seemed like a relatively simple concept for me to wrap my head around. It's always been about having a good time, having fun. And we agreed, the day that it's no longer fun, we're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I'm actually stepping down as CEO of Work in Progress.
To pursue music or?
To move on to the next project.
Okay.
So we are going to basically close the books, start something new. And I think that from day one until now, I'm just so proud. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. The amount of people that had their fingerprints on this is like so inspiring, dude. Because
it's pretty impressive, honestly.
Yeah. Man. You talk about those low moments and how they can kind of push you in the right direction. I'm let's see, I guess 2 years out of school at this point, and I'm down in Houston. I was working in Dallas, down in Houston, and me and John, my oldest friend, are sitting around having tacos, and I want to say it's August of 2020. Yeah. So we'd been going through the shit for about 8 months, maybe 5 of COVID. Yeah. It was tough, dude. It was wearing on me because I had always had this drive to like throw concerts. I guess we missed the section here, but I actually threw concerts in college too. So I always had that experience as like that was when I was really living. I threw these shows in college. I kind of found like whatever my purpose was after that initial crisis, and then I went out of school, tried to find a music gig, started going broke, couldn't find shit. I had to take a job. In whatever I could get with an economics degree, which turned out to be what I was led to believe was more of like economic forecasting, and turned out to be more like bullshit number crunching and like
sounds like fun
60-hour weeks
of
taking shit from somebody else to do something that I don't really care about.
Yeah, good times.
That was tough, dude. And I was doing that for about a year, and I'm basically at my wit's end, and I meet with my buddy John, and I say, I've got this business plan, and as my best friend, I need you to hold me accountable to make sure that I do this, or I'm never going to be happy. He says, I'm fucking in, dude. Let's do it. So for the next 5 months, we start banging on doors. We start, really building out this business plan. Loop in our buddy TJ, who is kind of like a business development guru himself, and just through our first gig. It was supposed to be actually our inaugural gig was supposed to be in my backyard right after the winter storm, and my landlord found out and was like, no fucking way. So at this point, it was like 5 days before the show.
Oh, man.
I publicly told the story. It was like 5 days before the first show, and we didn't have a venue. We had sold 55 tickets already. We had like thousands of dollars that did not belong to us in ticket sales, and we have no venue. And we're freaking out, obviously. Excuse me. And, you know, looking at John like, this is not going well. And, you know, we just basically started hammering the phones. We found a venue that would let us set up shop, did our thing, and it went off way better than we expected. You know, ended up having 180 people there at the first show.
Yeah.
Raised $2,000 for the North Texas Food Bank. Got to like get on stage really for the first time, and I mean that just blew the fucking doors off everything. Like that first good show, people buy T-shirts. Like it was really eye opening, and that's really how it started. And I'm a really sentimental person, hence the notebooks, hence all the knickknacks I've collected over the years, and you know things I choose to hold on to, including but not limited to musical instruments. But I've always wanted it to be about the artists, always about the charity, and the feeling that builds in a room, and like that purpose, you know, adds to the vibe, right? You know, if I were to throw a gig and say all this money is going in my pocket, it wouldn't feel the same. Like it wouldn't really feel like we're having this cumulative impact together. And that's what I feel like has always been important about WIP. And so over time, you know, we've always thought, you know, what are the goals? Just kind of pick an arbitrary number. I want to donate $10,000 to charity. Which ones? Food bank, cancer research, mental health. You can't fight with that. All this conflict in the world, all these people arguing on the internet and in real life, and you know, especially following the you know, the COVID vaccine debates and all of that stuff. That's not where I feel like I need to share my opinions. What I need to do is deal in absolutes. What do we know is a problem?
Yeah.
Well, food shortage. I mean, everyone's just had their power out for 6 days. I was living in 32 degrees in my living room. Like, that's not right. Why is that the case? Well, I can't answer a question as complex as that, but what I do know is that I can throw a show and raise money for the food bank.
Yeah.
We really need it. And like I said, it's simple. It's just easy as that. And I was just amazed by how people responded to it. You know, I think the timing was really everything. People paid $25 to go to a show, and I think that was just a sign of the times. Like, people were just dying to get out. They wanted to
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It also helped that it was, you know, a free-flowing airway venue, you know, half indoor, half outdoor. So I think that was a way for us to stay safe and all that, you know, given the climate and things. But yeah, dude, it evolved from kind of just throwing, you know, DIY shows, and then we started, you know, producing interviews and music videos, you know, shows with more production value, and then kind of looped back into, you know, the beginning again with open mics, and really just trying to devote our time to developing a community around Dallas and giving people opportunities to not only perform, not only you know, work with their passion of maybe being a sound or a light technician, but taking photos, taking videos.
Yeah.
Even, you know, someone who's passionate about being a stagehand, and just opening up all of these doors. It's like what we were talking about when we were grabbing coffee before this. It's like every show has some boxes that need to be checked. You're going to have you know, someone setting up the PA system. You're going to have someone who's going to throw up some lights or throw up you know, the microphone stands and all that. And what it really comes down to is effort and attitude. Because if you don't have those two things, if those two things aren't aligned with what we're trying to do, then I don't have any time for you.
Yeah, I mean, your attitude will take you a long way, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've had issues where it's like you've got someone who's really good at their job, but if they're not going to appreciate the project, I got no time for it.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that, man. And there's that kind of shit just gets in the way. You know, you ain't got time for it. You're trying to accomplish a goal, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, again, that does go back to, you know, with creative ideas, there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no, you know, definitive direction. But there's always got to be someone who kind of has a say in, like, well, here's the end goal.
Yeah.
And it's important to have, open discussions that will lead to, the best possible option. But at the same time, it's like you can't have, too many chefs in the kitchen or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I've had that problem too, going back to my first few shows where politics get involved, and the next thing you know, you got to loop in a whole crew. Like, that's a bitch.
Yeah. With all that being said, what motivates you to continue and keep going?
Dude, it always comes down to people, man. I feel like just when I feel like I'm not doing enough, or just when I feel like things aren't really going the way they should, I have somebody just hit me up out of nowhere, or stop me and say like, when I'm thinking of my buddy Gerardo right now, based in Houston, makes awesome artwork. Gerardo 1001 on Instagram, and I remember I met this dude. It was one of those days where you're starving, like you're really looking for something to eat. It's like 8:45, and you're just like, I gotta find something.
Yeah.
I just moved to Houston, and I didn't know where shit was. I was living on the east side, and so I just Googled Mexican food, and Magas comes up. So I'm like, all right, sick, I'm gonna try this out. I shredded over to Magas with like 5 minutes till they close. It's raining outside, which is the perfect day to eat Mexican food. And I roll in there, and this dude Gerardo is sitting at the front desk, like the front checkout area, cashier. And he's drawing something, and I look around, and I see all this artwork in here. It's kind of like, family-owned, old school kind of spot. Yeah. And I look around, I'm like, oh man, like, who makes all this artwork? And he's like, most of it's my cousin, some of it's mine. I'm like, that's cool. And in a situation like this, I could come right out and say, take my business card, I do all this and that. But I never do that. I always try and just kind of like egg people on a little bit and be like, interesting, so like, do you make artwork a lot? Like,
yeah, trying to figure out a little bit.
Exactly. And just, line them up to start going off. But Gerardo's just like so excited to talk about his artwork. He's like, man, like, I just really started diving in like 6 or 7 months ago, and I just love it. And all my friends have been telling me like, I got to keep chasing it. And I was like, you should, man. Like, you make some really cool stuff. And just on a whim, I knew that we had a show 7 weeks out or something. Maybe it was like 4 weeks out. I'm not even really sure. We had a gig down the road, and I was like, it'd be great if you could bring some of your artwork out. And he's like, bro, you want me to be in your art show?
Yeah.
I'm like, hell yeah, I want you to be in our art show. And he lost it. He fell out, and he went home and started making like a bunch more stuff. He was getting inspired, and sold a few pieces at the gig.
Yeah.
Started throwing his own kind of shows around Houston. He actually made our jumpsuits for the most recent
that's cool.
show, so we're real tight. But it does come back down to the people, because it's like, like we were talking about having a meaningful life. You gotta really cherish those relationships and really understand the impact that you have on people. And once you show someone what is possible, they might just take that and run with it and change the fucking world.
It sounds like you motivated him. He went home and got to work.
He actually gave us a really nice testimonial. So if you ever go on our website, you can see that. But
awesome.
Gerardo's the man. Yeah.
I want to ask you just a few just random questions. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew
up? So I was basically between, and this is like literally so definitive of like all that stuff I just said. It was either cartoon illustrator, pro football running back.
No way.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It was those two things. I used to love tech deck.
That's like dudes. Left brain, right brain.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tech deck dudes. I noticed you got like.
Yeah, dude. No, I've got some like the old ones, the little magnetic ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was the type of thing that I feel like really kind of spurred my creative interests. Especially around painting portraits and painting different types of people and trying to capture like the essence of a character, if you will.
That's cool.
And the sports thing. I mean, I think that just kind of goes back to older brother does this. Dad's interested in this. Naturally, it kind of just comes back to, okay, well, that's what the youngest son's going to do. And, I just saw sports as a great way to connect with people and relate to people. Similar to music, I think that's really what my whole life has been devoted to, is just trying to connect and share something with other people.
Do you think you've kind of found your place in the world?
I'm still looking for it. I've definitely, surrounded myself with a lot of really awesome people, I'm grateful to have in my life. And I think that's half the battle. I've given so much to this idea of work in progress. It's almost bittersweet to say goodbye, but at the same time, I have to understand that life is about evolving, and it's just time. It's time for me to change the way I operate and change the way I move. And just because I'm not, the head of work in progress anymore doesn't mean I can't live that same mentality and still move throughout the world with that same ambition, right? Like, I'm still going to try and inspire people and push people in a direction that
Absolutely.
makes them happy.
Yeah.
It'll just look different.
Speaking of time, when you think about time in like a general aspect, is it relevant to you? Do you feel like it moves quickly? How do you experience time?
That's a really good question. For me, I feel like I always define my life like by what notebook. This sounds so cheesy. What notebook I'm writing in? Because dude, I swear I could just name off like each one of these chapters, and usually they last about 6 to 8 months, and I'll kind of go off on a tear and then spend some time off it and then go back in it. But so much of my life kind of ties back to what projects am I working on, because whenever I'm like really devoted to something, I dive in, dude. I just obsess about it.
Yeah.
And when it goes to work in progress, when it goes to the band, when it goes to my best friends, my girlfriend, my vices, everything. Like, if I love something, I'm gonna put everything I got into it, But I think more and more I've been kind of taken back by the idea that I'm not in a rush, and I'm not racing against anything, I like that. Had this weird idea, and I've actually noticed this phenomenon with a few people. I wasn't really capable of envisioning what my future would look like. As an 18 or a 19-year-old, I could never imagine what a 23-year-old version of me would be like. And, sadly enough, there was a point in my life where I didn't know if I would get there. And, luckily I have, and I've been really fortunate to wake up today and keep moving. But time's a funny thing, man. You can't get too caught up in how old you are. You can't get too caught up in where someone else was when they were your age. But that day-to-day shit is what it comes down to. How much time are you spending on your phone fucking around? How much time are you spending in your bed when you could be out getting it? And that's something I struggle with all the time.
It's just so easy to be complacent nowadays, and you can just look at your phone and be gone for hours.
I think apathy is the biggest problem with our culture, is just like not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
And I think there are times when not giving a fuck is great, but when it comes to like most things, that's not the case.
No, I agree.
From a creative sense, not giving a fuck's great though.
Yeah, right.
That's key.
Yeah, you have to. Tell me about your gear a little bit, man. What kind of guitar are you playing? I noticed you play on like a semi-hollow. Mm-hmm. Do you prefer that over a solid body?
It depends. I will admit, up until recently, I said the band is kind of a new development.
Yeah.
Up until recently, I always saw myself as more of kind of like a business management type of role in music. I think there was.
Is the music just a side thing for you? Are you more in?
It's a new obsession.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
It's something that I've always really loved doing. I started playing when I was 14.
Yeah.
Kind of off and on a little bit, and then really started taking it seriously when I was 21. So I've been playing for about 5 years pretty seriously now.
Okay,
but,
okay.
It was weird because with these gigs, like you can't publicly lack confidence because you're basically sending a Mayflower out there saying the show is on February 28th.
Mm-hmm.
Be there, and you got to do as much as you possibly can to make sure it's a success between now and the day that you said it was. And so there was so much, effort and time and energy that I put into just putting the gigs together that I never felt like it was my place to also put myself on stage. And I think part of it was, just lacking the confidence, lacking the preparation and the training, and just understanding that wasn't my place to be. But, evolving from that jamming to a fault era, moving towards what is now, Del Mar era, and being part of something that I really am confident in and believe in and love to my fucking grave. Like, that's where I'm willing to say, yeah, I'm gonna go on stage.
That's awesome.
That shit.
Yeah, I love that.
Because there's no other way to do it. You're either in or you're out. There's a Mac Miller line that I really wish I had off the top of my head. He's one of my biggest influences.
Okay, you gotta jump in to swim.
You gotta jump in and swim.
Yeah, right. What are some other influences musically?
I was always a big Rolling Stones fan growing up.
Okay.
My parents are kind of old souls.
Yeah. I grew up on classic rock, dude. Like,
classic rock.
Yeah.
That was really what changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
I joke with my brother that our old Xbox hard drive had the greatest collection of music ever known to man.
Yeah.
The Offspring, Smash, one of my favorite albums growing up. Beastie Boys, Smash Hits, obviously, by Jimi Hendrix. I remember I was a little kid, and this kind of goes back to, being the youngest sibling, really seeking acceptance from people who I cared about, my older brother and my dad, other, mentors I had growing up. But I remember probably 5 years old, we're at the Best Buy off of Brian Irving, right over by, kind of where I used to live. And my brother, who was 10 at the time, bought Jimi Hendrix Smash Hits. And I just remember hearing, dun, 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 oh shit, my bad. I gotta
ahead,
do
man.
this one. Is that?
Yep.
Anyways, you get the gist.
Yep.
But I remember just hearing that and being like, ooh. And it goes, Purple Haze. And, you always want to do shit you're not supposed to do when you're a little kid. So I remember shortly thereafter, we're sitting in my front yard. We had this little boom box. We used to do yard work all the time. That was how my brother and my dad and I always hung out. We're doing yard work, and he's playing the CD that he just got. And I'm singing Purple Haze. He says, do you know what Purple Haze is?
Yeah.
I said, I have no idea. Doesn't matter. And, it's just been, it's one of the most definitive music moments in my life. I think about that all the time. Because, subconsciously, I feel like our motives and our aspirations are shaped by who we look up to.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah.
by understanding, my dad likes this music, my brother likes this music, this must be what's cool.
Yeah.
And, for that reason, I love the Rolling Stones. I love the Beastie Boys. I love, Offspring and, Zeppelin and all of this music that I heard in my house.
Yep.
And I'm so lucky that I had that, eclectically cultural enriched upbringing. And, I love my family to death, dude. Those guys, shout out to my family.
Sounds like it,
Shout out
yeah.
to my pops and my mom.
I feel you, though, man.
Hardest workers I've ever met.
That's how I got into Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah,
Was through my mom.
He fucking rocks.
Yeah,
dude,
man.
Tom Petty, The Doors, probably one of my favorites. I think totally. You didn't even ask this question. Greatest rock song of all time. Peace Frog by The Doors.
Really?
You ever heard that one?
Absolutely.
Blood in the streets is up to my ankles.
Yeah.
Blood in the streets up to my knees.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I love that. Do you mind if we take a quick break? Is that cool?
Man, we can wrap this up, honestly. I mean, it's whatever you want to do.
You mind if we take a quick break?
Let's take a break, yeah. Right back into it. What's up, guys? Anyway, we never really did a formal introduction, but Hayden Redmon, thanks for coming on, dude. Everybody, thanks for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit. You know, I appreciate it. It takes a second for y'all to do it. It means the world does. We kind of took a quick little break, getting right back into it, man. I'm curious if you have like a pre-show ritual you do like before shows and stuff. Since you're kind of getting on stage and shit now, do you ever get like the nervousness and anxiousness before it?
Yeah, I feel like that pre-show ritual kind of takes a day or two.
Right, getting the right headspace.
Especially, you know, if it's a whip show that we're throwing together, and MarEra is playing in that show, it's an added bit of stress, but it's also a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, day of, there was a time when I used to think that, you know, having a couple beers or whatever would make me less nervous or more creative or whatever. And I've moved away from that. I found that, you know, if I have a clear head and I'm like really in tune with the rest of the band,
yeah,
it's more fun.
I'm the same way, dude. Like I used to get like, just drink before shows and shit, and you end up playing sloppy or doing something stupid, and I found that if I'm just in a clear head, that I genuinely have more fun anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess really that pre-show ritual is just rehearsing a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my favorite place to, you know, rehearse by myself is definitely in the car. So, you know, I got a roommate. I don't want to be like yelling. I don't really sing softly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, sing a little bit like when I'm driving around that day, and then right before we get on stage, I usually get, you know, the three other dudes. Our bass player and our drummer change occasionally. Like you said, you know, I've worked with Griffin on drums, Shirley Shredder on the drums. He's an awesome guy. Joe on the bass, who also plays at Late Night Call.
Yeah.
Bobby Grizzle, he's a good guy. Lives up in Boston now. But it goes back to John and I. You know, we wrote the songs, and we're really, you know, kind of putting the band together, putting the shows together.
Right.
So right before we go on stage, we usually kind of, you know, bow our heads, get together, and I just say what's on my mind. You know, I say what the show means to us and what it hopefully will mean to the audience when we're done and when we get, you know, through the stage or off the stage. And really just having respect for other people's time in the process and understanding that we are capable of changing someone's mind. And if we do our job right, then we will do X. You know, I remember, it's a really sad story, but my drummer's dog passed away, and we devoted the last show to her. So
Okay.
that was really that was powerful for all of us. That was kind of like a traumatic experience that we all went through together. So, yeah, that show was for Ginger for sure.
Right on. If you weren't in the music right now, what do you think you'd be doing?
So, it just depends. I mean, like I said, you know, moving away from whip, stepping down,
Mm-hmm.
I'm already expecting a major shift, and I'm welcoming that. You know, it's kind of part of the plan for the next chapter of what my life will be, God willing. Having a band that, you know, I really care about, that's a huge part of it. You know, having friends and family and the people around me that I really care about, that's another huge part of it. But it's just like that purpose, right? You know, if the purpose has always been, how do I have that positive impact on people? You know, it doesn't always have to be with music. I think in the perfect world, if I could quantify an impact that I've had on people, you know, through charity or through, you know, the shows, that would be the best thing, right? But you know, it's not a scoreboard, man. It's just about going out there and doing the best you can.
Sure. If you were on a road trip, tell me some like road trip playlists. What are you playing?
The road trip playlist is crucial.
Yeah.
And as someone who runs a podcast, I'm sure you've ventured through different podcasts. A lot of people have different takes on that.
Oh, I'm a huge podcast fan.
It depends on who's in the car with you. Obviously, you got to kind of read the room, read the crowd. And assuming, if you're going to drive across the country, you probably like this person at least.
Yeah, right. A little bit.
And so I think, a little bit of give and take is always good. But if it's your turn, bend, don't break. If I want to listen to 90s hip hop, I'm going to do that shit.
Yeah.
And you're just going to have to wait another hour. But I also think, I got some buddies who like these murder mystery podcasts, and I'm just like, bro, turn this shit off. I don't give a fuck what you think. It just depends. But for me, I think if I'm driving through the country, I'm gonna start with the basics. The way that I have changed like the collections of music. I used to make playlists all the time. So I feel like I would probably jump into like a playlist that I had recently cooked up. But more and more recently, I've started listening to like specific albums, and I try and fit those albums to however I'm feeling like in the day. So, or like obviously discovering new music and listening to new stuff, which I also think is important on the road.
Yeah, you can make an album like the soundtrack to like a trip or something,
Dude, me and John were driving to Boulder to see the Grateful Dead a couple months ago, and we're driving through Kansas, and all of a sudden it's like nice, like directly on top of us, but in every direction it's just like storm clouds just going off. And it's weird because I've never seen like almost a 360 view where it's like we're heading towards some shit, and it's right behind us, and it's over there and over there, but in that moment, it just seemed like I got to put on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon and kind of just wear through this one. And it got intense as fuck, dude. That intro to Time.
Yeah.
And then the rain started pouring, like super loud. It was big fat rain, dude. It was pouring. And, that was like a really intense way to kind of like match the energy of what was going on around us. Which is a lot of what music's about, right? Like, meeting your crowd in the middle and then pushing them whatever direction you want them to go.
Yeah.
But, other essentials, I think, going back to like, I don't know, I like to explore the blues like in depth. So if you go from like Robert Johnson and speed it way up to, say Stevie, and then you go back to Jimmy, and then over to other Jimmy Page, and then pushing it back forward to say Jack White, you just see like the same tendencies and the same structure, and everyone bends it one direction or another.
Yeah.
It's like, here's how I understand the blues. I took a couple of semesters of jazz guitar, just like a free elective, and some of my buddies would like give me shit. They'd see me walk around campus with my guitar, like, "Oh, what are you gonna go fucking jam?" I'm like, "Yeah." Yeah,
like, of course.
Now, bitch.
Yeah.
No, not even. No, I got nothing but love for that shit. But, just understanding like the roots of blues plays into every other genre of music.
It's the fundamentals of everything.
Oh, it's the best, too. Yeah. And then you just like that story of Robert Johnson that I want to believe so bad.
Yeah, soul to soul at the crossroads.
Yeah, dude, that shit's badass.
Yeah.
But
as a guitar player, who sticks out to you and or influences you're playing?
Dude, I find myself chasing like the sound of John Frusciante quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Awesome. Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's like the son of Hendrix, dude. Like.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's cliche, but obviously Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
I played the lick again.
There's a lot of similarities in them too. They play the Fender. And they.
But I also love like Bob Dylan and like Neil Young and like those guys who don't necessarily like shred, but dude, they lay it down. They, play much.
That's a whole different side of guitar playing. Like there's the song player, singer songwriter type, and then there's like the shredder melodic type.
Yeah. Could we have a little jam session at some point? I got this new song I'm working on, and I played it at the open mic at Stan's that we do on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
It kind of well received. I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep cooking this one.
That's cool.
Dude, that is the best thing about this open mic that we got, is you can literally go up there and just play whatever, and 10 or 15 minutes, one way or another. We usually got about 15 to like 20 sign-ups per night, per Wednesday. And I don't know, man, there's just something about an energy in that room where, it's kind of an off night of the week, and it's understood that like you can try shit here and just like see how it goes. And like, does anybody in the room play bass? Like, we Shirley needs a bass player or something.
That's cool.
It's just fun, man. Collaboration.
Yeah. How often y'all doing that?
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
And even with the end of WIP, that'll still continue. So that's a very important note. I wanted to make sure that even with me changing roles and moving to focus on something else, all of the things that we've put in place are still accessible. Any kind of merchandise that you'd want to get from the WIP store, or any kind of open mic type stuff, that's cool. But it'll just be a little different.
Yeah.
Other people stepping up.
Are you just gonna continue to pursue the music, or you have an idea of what you're gonna step into next?
To be honest, I've been putting thought into it for a few months, and for me, it's again like not the how but the why. It's like, well, why do I want to do this? What do I want to do? And with the WIP experience, it's like I feel like I identified what the end goal is. Like, I want to be doing WIP work multiplied by 1,000.
Yeah.
Being in a position where I've got the experience, and I've got the ambition, I've got the connections, and I've got the right frame of mind to like lead this idea into existence. And so I know that if I really want to donate millions, maybe billions of dollars, like I can't do it the way that I'm running WIP. And so that's why it has to stop for a little bit, if that makes sense. And I think in that new period of time, ideally I'd like to get an industry job in music, or some kind of artist management, brand management type of role for someone like Sony Music or like Universal or something like that, or even like a smaller like local brand.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of thinking out loud right now, which might not be the best thing whenever you're like recording something, but
it's all good. It's honest.
Yeah, that's one thing I said earlier. I was like, man, I'm an open book. You ask the right questions, and I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
And that's what you've been, man. Honestly.
For sure.
Yeah.
This place is cool, dude. I like what you guys are doing.
I appreciate it.
I find myself just like looking around and just being inspired, and like that's how all these words are just keep on flowing.
Right. I appreciate it, man. It's been a good talk. I got to wrap it up. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Y'all be sure and follow. If there's anything you want to toss out there real quick, anything you want to promote, please feel free.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just feel like you hit me up at the perfect time. I've been thinking of the right way to share this news with everybody that we've worked with and everybody who's come out to the shows. And so, seeing this opportunity, I knew that now was the time to share it. My time with WIP is over.
Yep.
And there's something new coming. So keep your eyes peeled for it. Still have the open mics at Stan's Blue Note every Wednesday. And we're going to have a finale show. early December.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah, y'all be sure. Y'all go to Stan's, man. They put on a killer show. They have some great artists coming through there. Griffin, Late Night Call. I mean, the list goes on, man. It's just killer people. I mean, if you've been keeping up with this show at all, you know I have interesting people who are fucking with some other interesting people on here. So don't take it lightly. Check it out. Look into it. Make sure and follow the band. Yeah, I mean,
MarEra.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. It's been fun. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Y'all be you. We're going to be us. Take it easy, guys. You want to play us out?
Yeah. Oh,
Play us out, dude.
I got nothing special here, but.
I encourage everybody that comes on here as an artist to kind of play us out, so go for it, dude.
That was a lot of fun, man. Appreciate you guys having me come through here.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry my voice is all fucked up, dude, and
You know, honestly, I didn't notice.
I feel like I'm a little off myself.
I do think you have a good voice, though. You know, I think it'd be cool. If you guys have a gig coming up or something, I'd definitely swing through for that.
Yeah, dude, I mean, like I just play guitar, but absolutely.
Dude, up until about 6 months ago, I never thought that I would ever want to sing at all.
Really?
Yeah.
This is my girl, Kenzie, sorry.
Hey, Kenzie. How you doing?
Yeah.
I'm doing well. Yeah, we just wrapped up our podcast, and I'm going to play a song real quick. Break out, break out, no I gotta breathe. No I gotta break out, no I got to. No I gotta break out, no I got to. No I gotta break out. Say my life sucks and my job does too, cause I'm pulling data like I'm pushing a broom. That's why my baby does shrooms, 1 bedroom. And Dallas, Texas, shit, I knew what I do for. Man, my boss don't even know my name, cause he didn't know me in that chain. Said I lost the space, lost that race. Any day I might just lose my face, shit. Cause you know I'd rather tote my fucking tech line than be working this 9-to-5 shit. No respect, no fat shit. Any day I might just lose my neck, I said. Caruth Bootleg. Said humanity is on trial. Guilty verdicts aren't the option in this reality, cause moon folks play fiddles on the roof. They leave indigo footsteps as they go walking in the darkness, prepare to shed light. Why a martyr so brave or determined? Preach the poet.
Awesome, dude.
Me and my homie John got this bit where it's like, you know, like at the end of a song,
Yeah.
there's always that one guy who wants to play like the last note.
Yeah, right.
Just keep on just flowing it from like.
See how far you can take it. Yeah.
Or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
All right, I'll get out of your hair. Thanks again.
No, that was awesome, dude.
Jake, thanks again, Kenzie, too.
Yeah.
That was a ton of fun, honestly. So,
Yeah, dude.
I got to stack up all these books. I actually haven't really gone through these much, but